Friends, here we are. It's 6 a.m. in Los Angeles, where I am right now. And we had barely gotten up when the countdown had changed because the Avengers Doomsday trailer is finally here. It's the same trailer that was shown at CinemaCon. So we already talked about it in a previous video, but this time we have the footage. Well, to be honest with you, to tell you everything, it wasn't in our plans at all. Today, with my buddy Alex, we had planned to go to Disneyland Park. That's why we got up really, really early so we could be there right at the beginning. To be honest, I woke up at 6 a.m. I'm not necessarily ahead of my schedule. I got up at 5:58. I saw the guys from the spoiler room getting excited. I went to check the countdown. There were 2 minutes left in green, and we still got to see the trailer live, so that was pretty cool. I still had to make a video, of course, on this channel. If there wasn't a video, well, that wouldn't be ideal. Please forgive me for the filming conditions. I tried to do a live stream, but the internet wasn't working, so we're still going to do this. No matter what, we're going to talk about this trailer in detail, just like you're used to. If you don't want to be spoiled, then run away, because we're entering the spoiler zone, the danger zone. You're with Kevin Bookhart, everyone's favorite theorist's favorite theorist. Let's go. We're analyzing this frame by frame. Let's go. We'll start with the Xavier plaque. We're really going to go through it frame by frame. So, the Xavier School plaque, we knew that, we saw it, something is coming. What's crazy is that it's really Thor who's put forward to speak throughout the whole trailer. We have almost no one else, but we have no one else speaking. We only have Thor. Something is coming. So here, we really have the first image of a real incursion, like we've never seen before. We knew that Charles Xavier was going to watch it. That's like the X-Men trailer scene of him looking out the window. Now we truly have our old man, Charles Xavier. And apparently it's a world that's exploding. So I think this goes back to the idea that the X-Men for years now have been fighting. Well, years, I don't know exactly, but in any case, they've been fighting against incursions for a really long time. We know that their world, well, probably with what happened, if Deadpool and Wolverine are part of their universe, then they're fighting against incursions for the survival of their universe. Possibly the scene we're seeing here is the one that follows the introduction, meaning the one where we have, spoiler alert, we have Wolverine and Deadpool, by the way, the X-Men in general, who went to attack Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's Earth. We know they're going to destroy it. We know there's going to be a gigantic scene at the beginning, and it's possible that it's at that moment, even though we can see that there's already quite a bit of debris in the scene. So, possibly, apparently this universe will be a utopian universe. But maybe the school is already in bad shape. So here we have the scene, the famous scene where we were told that Doom would be in a superhero landing position. So it's quite special. Well, first we see a lot more of the costume. It's really, really cool. But it's quite special the way they're presenting it to us. That is to say, basically from the very first trailer, they're showing him to us as the main villain. Whereas we all really thought that, well, the only scene we've seen of him is the one with the Fantastic Four. So there will definitely be a part where he'll have to act as an ally alongside the Fantastic Four. But the marketing presents him directly as the main villain of the story. It's a confrontation between him and Thor from the start. It's pretty hard to make out what's in the background, but we can imagine this is the battlefield scene with the X-Men. We have the first look at the new Avengers Tower. Man, that logo looks weird. Honestly, it looks really cheap compared to the Avengers we had before. That's the point of the new Avengers. It's this odd logo. But it's right there in the skyline. It's the new version. Here you can see we have the Fantastic Four ship with the new Fantastic Four costumes and Thor in the background. A Thor who, well, you still get the feeling that this follows the ending scene. That is, Steve is probably already there. Why would you drop that? It's hard to understand. So it can be misleading, you know. So we have the Avengers and the new Avengers gathered in Avengers Tower. We already have Paul Rudd in costume as Ant-Man. Well, we still have Bucky, who is at Captain's side. And here in this scene, what do we have? Yeah, because yeah, it's the same thing. So here we already have all the factions. We really have the new Avengers on the left. Where is he? Yeah, but he's there. He's there with the new Avengers. On the right, basically, the Avengers we have in the end are just Ant-Man and Sam. We have that thing all the way in the back with the explanation. We're clearly in Avengers Tower, I think. Yes, because it's the same screen. So basically, we see that there's the, what's his name? Red Guardian. He's still wearing his new Avengers costume. So it's really the direct follow-up to the Thunderbolts post-credit scene. They all have the same haircut and everything. Yeah, that's it. It was filmed at that time. So the moment when they see the ship on the screen, that's really the moment when, well, the Fantastic Four arrive on Earth. It's a direct follow-up. So he was just talking about the Avengers. Sam arrived immediately. Okay. No Captain in this shot. No Steve in this shot. Interesting. So damn, look at what happens. It's really hard to piece things together. So we have, and at that moment, we see that it's this scene. We have Thor explaining that he has already fought Doom. Doom. We don't have Shang-Chi with us here, whom we see fighting later on. How did Thor join the Fantastic Four? That's the real question. Does that mean there was already a first confrontation? It's just the Fantastic Four, Thor, Doom versus the X-Men. That's totally possible. Then we have the scene with Namor. Namor, very classy, right? Neymar, very, very classy. Anyway, he's always been a really classy character. So here, apparently, we're in Talocan. It's just that there's no water anymore. Confrontation with Wakanda. His costume is really clean, huh? For stabbing, huh? Damn. Yeah, well, yeah, look, yeah, it's true. We didn't see the throne, but that's definitely the throne that's usually underwater. With the face of the Megalodon. So here we have Thor landing on the already destroyed stage. So what is that structure in the background? It's very hard to say. It looks like a structure from mythology, not necessarily an X-Men thing. So the question is, are we really in the remains of a battle that took place? In the X-Men Academy, it's really hard to say. Yet we can see that around here, it's metallic. So it looks like there are some kinds of, there's a sentinel leg on the right there. So I think we're really looking at that battle. Now, why would there be a versus Doom? So here we have the scene. It explodes in the school. We hadn't seen it, by the way. In the images we talked about, in everything we analyzed, we noticed that it wasn't the same thing at all because we didn't see the famous X-Men staircase. Well, here it is this time. It explodes. We have our first image of Cyclops, who brings out the famous Gambit versus Jean Grey fight. We can see that, wait, what is this? It's the two seats where they're playing with, okay, so that's the place where maybe Magneto was sitting and Charles, it's pretty hard to say when this is from, right? Is it during the second confrontation? Because basically, in reality, we can imagine that there's a first confrontation. Fantastic Four, Thor versus Doom, and some X-Men, okay? Then there would be the idea to go back and try to convince them. That's where we mentioned a possible second fight. Because if the Fantastic Four come back with Thor to explain to the new Avengers what really happened, from the X-Men side and how terrifying Doom is, maybe he's even talking about the X-Men at that moment. That means we have a second part where they go back to that universe. And so maybe there's a confrontation where they fight each other before saying, guys, we need to work together, okay? That's a scene we hadn't heard about at all. I think that was totally added in. You can see from the color grading that this is much more the area around where Steve Rogers lives. Those must really be Steve's hands, by the way. DVA, I'm Brian Sutori. So the famous Loki card, who would have thought? So we're going to have some Loki. We're going to have some Loki at Steve's place. And anyway, even in the very first leaked images back then, when it was being filmed, we had that thing with Loki dressed in TVA gear knocking on the door of the house. That was one of the first things that came out. It's not really a surprise anymore. But the fact that they show him to us right in the trailer, that's interesting. I think maybe there aren't many others. Well, maybe it means something. It means they want to show us Loki anyway. They want to make the connection with the TVA. But maybe there aren't any other scenes with Loki. Maybe it's really just about when they're going to join him. Because here, that says it all. That means the side mission for Steve and Thor is going to be trying to join Loki. And so, well, the fact that they're showing us Loki here and not in his God of Stories outfit means that maybe the rumor is true and that when they get there, he'll already be dead, actually. He'll have his heart ripped out, the famous ripped out heart. So, well, we'll see. Here, from what we see, we have that famous thing where there's the wall of water all around. So what's holding the wall of water in place? Is it Namor? That's possible since he usually has the power to control it. But it could also be something that Sue is doing. We can see that the ship isn't the Fantastic Four ship. It's some kind of upgraded Quinjet. I don't even know if maybe it's not the ship of Captain Marvel. I have a feeling that it's Captain Marvel's ship. So here we have Shuri heading towards that ship. The famous meeting where we hadn't seen the whole thing. But here, it's funny because it's another angle of the moment when they introduce themselves. M'Baku versus the Thing. Here we can see the characters are different. We have Falcon, the Thing, and Sue. And I don't know if you remember, we also had a behind-the-scenes photo where we had these characters. So Falcon and Bucky Barnes, who plays the Thing, who was actually in the... And we also had a U.S. agent who was in a ship, the Fantastic Four ship. I think we'll have a moment when everyone splits up. Next, another scene. So here we see that the split has happened. In my opinion, one team stays on Earth and one team is going to face the X-Men. Here we see it, and that's why I'm telling you that, in my opinion, it's the second one. This is the famous scene, the second encounter with the X-Men I mentioned before. Interesting. Captain is in the background, and those who saw it live at CinemaCon noticed. We see that we actually have Reed stopping him from intervening because there is... She goes there, so there must have already been a first encounter with the X-Men. And there's Yelena stepping forward. We have Herbie in the background, and we're clearly the confrontation versus Mystique. Now, Mystique, I don't think she's on Charles's side, so that means there has already been some kind of alliance with Magneto at this point. But I thought it was going to happen somewhere else than in the... Yeah, that's it. Somewhere other than the school. Here, Charles and Magneto are present together in the iconic scene we saw. Very strange. Most people thought it was one. That there was one. Well, no, yes, no, because the first time I saw it, I thought it was Scott kissing Yelena's head, and I was like, what the fuck? But no, it's his daughter. It's his daughter. We're at their place. So there's a HIPAA thing going on, and that's probably going to have an impact, since we know that in Secret Wars, it's supposed to be the kids who go save the parents. That's the idea. So, in my opinion, there's really something going on. We're not really going to see the Young Avengers. Here, we have Scott saying goodbye to his daughter. That's likely what will cause the next event. We have the famous hug. We have the Human Torch who hugs his sister, but we can see that the Human Torch is pretty damaged, though, right? That means there was a fight. There was a fight, which feels like an ending scene. Because in the background, it looks like there's some kind of explosion or maybe even an incursion. We can see Shuri. Okay, he's the captain. Incredible. This setting here, I think the scenery around the manor is going to be pretty crazy. Once again, we have Gambit and might still get some pretty incredible Gambit set pieces here. So a fight where Captain isn't doing much, but Gambit comes in. Isn't Gambit also going to be on the other side, rather than with the X-Men and more with the Brotherhood? So here we can see in the background, so there are definitely the Sentinels. So at that moment, yes, Sue will probably fight Namor, which would be really interesting. You know that in the comics, there's a real connection between Namor and Sue, since there's a bit of a romantic tension, let's say, between the two characters. So it would be interesting to see them fight each other at first. And we're back to the Thor versus Doom fight. Clearly, the Russo brothers took over here. Whenever the Russo brothers get Thor, and that hasn't happened often, but here, bam, he does the exact same attack as in Infinity War, the same one, except this time he doesn't throw Stormbreaker. He attacks him directly, and he attacks Doom, who stops him. So simply, when you look at her glove, she has the rune that we saw, especially in the Shanghai show. You know, the light show that was around the Disney event in Shanghai. I feel like that's really the main rune. And to tell you the truth, this rune also appears inside her mask. I can't say if it'll be in the movie, but this rune shows up inside her mask. I saw that on the internet. And so there's really this aspect where I think that's the emblem of her magic. We also saw it on something that had fallen on her throne. On the back, it's something that also appears on the throne. So I think it's really one of the main runes of those powers. And so he stops Stormbreaker with his bare fingers. That's where I find the special effects a little strange. And the first images of Doom there, that's really the actual mask. You can clearly see his eyes underneath. We're going to need a miracle, and then he appears. So here, we're in space. We're in space, as you can see. We have red lights appearing, which means that potentially Thor may have joined them in space at that moment. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, and I find it hard to picture Thor being able to travel through the multiverse, but why not? In the first confrontation, is he really alone with the Fantastic Four against the X-Men? I don't know. Interesting that he's the one offering the hammer. On the other hand, Steve's costume looks like a dad outfit. Well, we're going to have to give him a costume and a shield, right? Give that man a shield. All right, okay. Okay. Very, very, very interesting. Well, we don't have a lot since all these scenes, except for Loki's card, which confirms that Steve is indeed in the Fantastic Four universe. And so either he snuck onto the ship or they actually went to get him. But well, since the leak that came out about the idea that Steve was in this universe is now confirmed, that means everything else is possibly true as well. So that means the Fantastic Four with Doom are really going to get him. But it's true that it doesn't explain why they interact so little at that moment. Did Thor in the end go into the Fantastic Four's universe, join them on the ship, and together they went to the X-Men? I'm not really sure. It seems strange to me. It's probably for the best in the end that we don't know everything. And above all, there's one big thing. We were all waiting for this trailer for Comic-Con, so it's coming out when reservations open. That also means one thing. If they release the trailer like a week before, or even less, yeah, about 5 days before, but what are they going to announce at Comic-Con? It could end up being absolutely crazy, insane. You know, my 3-movie theory, I still believe in it. It's wild. I still believe in it. The 3 Avengers movies, I can see it happening. I'm telling you, an announcement like Infinity War, guys, and then postponed for 6 months to a year. We'll all be there, right? Because instead, there's, I don't know, Infinity War Part 1 Avengers, I don't know what, to have this trilogy. That would be completely crazy. And to actually have Black Panther 3 take place in Battleworld, that would be nuts. That would be insane. There you go. Well, listen, this was a bit different. We tried to do this with what we had. I hope you enjoyed it. So we'll see you again very soon, and we'll try to do it a bit better next time. Ciao.